As people, we often choose to avoid rather than approach the trials and hardships that we will inevitably face. But my next guest says this world was designed to challenge us. I love that. And that running from that essential part of our existence does more harm than good. Studio 5 relationship contributor Dr. Matt Townsend is here to help us handle our hardships head on. Are we sure? Are we sure we want to take it on
scary.
like this? It is!
Well, what's your other alternative?
Good point.
We can just keep running.
Yeah.
But the running itself becomes the hardship.
This topic was inspired by your own kids, I understand.
So as I'm getting older, I'm down to 2 kids that are kind of under my house or roof, in a way. One is on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Honduras, which is a pretty brutal place.
Yes.
And the other's 17 years old, and they're best buddies, okay? So I'm talking to the missionary, and he just completed a year out. And I'm like, how do you feel now that you've got it? So that's Spencer and Josh. You've got it, a year left, you're doing great. Are you excited? What do you feel? He's like, I'm excited, I'm loving it, it's been awesome. And then he said, I'm just sad. And I'm like, uh-oh, what are you sad for? And he said, I'm sad that Josh has to go through all the challenges he has to get a year into the mission.
When he goes out.
When he goes out. So he's sad that Josh has to just grow and learn and develop and be alone and learn all these things because it's hard. And right then it dawned on me that we haven't probably done a good job talking enough about challenges as being a good thing, because every one of my kids has gone through this, and everyone's probably felt that sadness and that loneliness, except in the end, it's made every one of them into something powerful. So we don't want to keep people from having their challenges. We need people to be challenged, right? Life is about order and chaos, and a lot of us just like order, because order is very controllable in our world. But life also is designed to create a chaotic moment, and a chaotic moment is just anything you've never experienced. And once that chaos comes in, it's an invitation to grow. So it's time to start growing. So as we go through this, these are some principles to help us grow through the challenge instead of dodge it and shuck and jive and run.
Can I just say what a good older brother too?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to be thinking with that cord of compassion toward his younger pal that is going to have to walk these same steps. All right, you've got tools for the rest of us to accept the challenges head on. And the first is to reframe the idea of a challenge being negative to what you just said, that a challenge is an opportunity to grow. Right.
The challenge for the child, the crawling child to climb up onto the couch, that challenge isn't a negative thing for them. It's an interesting thing. And the accomplishment of standing up off the ground is an enormous accomplishment. But it's funny, somewhere that kid's not feeling it as a horrible negative, but eventually we kind of skew challenge to be a negative thing. Now, all challenge is an invitation to grow. It's just saying when you're feeling the tension between kind of order and chaos, it just means, okay, let's step up and grow. And then once we grow, that will never be a challenge again. That's why as we're progressing, life actually gets easier for us.
And what a good analogy to think of that child, because you want the accomplishment at the end.
You need it.
And we would say that for ourselves. I think it's just the pain in the process. You want us to choose effectiveness over perfection.
Yeah, a lot of us, I think we end up skewing the challenge negatively because we can't do it. And so we think in order to be able to do something without embarrassing ourselves, we have to be really perfected at it. But a better idea might be effective is the word, effective, right? So effective basically means that you get a result today without hindering your ability to get the result tomorrow. So if I do something today and I can do it in a way that I can even do it again tomorrow, and then I can do it better the next day. Effectiveness is additive. It's additive. It's, you know, it grows your potentiality, right? So that doesn't need to be perfect. All you need to be is as good as you could be on that thing today. And then do it without harming yourself, or do it without, like, I had a son that went with all of his friends to this retreat, and then they didn't like the retreat, so they all just came home, basically. They just came home, which was kind of disappointing. So what they did is they got a result, but they didn't get a result with a way to get a result next time. They didn't conquer it before they did it. They just didn't like something, and then they just left. Which, when I grew up, you know, you just can't leave things, right? Like prison. Like, they'll just make you stay.
They weren't in prison.
They weren't in prison. But the idea of effective is I'm not gonna shortchange my growth by avoiding it.
It sort of puts you in this position of humility too, because you're not going to be a master.
No, and weirdly, you shouldn't be until you've earned mastery, right? To give mastery, and maybe this is something we've done to our children too, is we've given them a title of mastery, before they've ever earned a mastery of something, right?
Yeah.
We gave them the trophy before whatever, but in the end, what we want to do is give them the confidence that they can make things happen and they can do it again tomorrow.
This mentality requires kind of the long game approach.
Yeah. That, and we're very short-term people, right?
Aren't we,
So
Bill?
I want us to count, I want you to count the costs of every choice. So if a child, for example, doesn't want to go to a party with his friends, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's not just browbeat you into going. What's the cost of not going? Well, you get to stay home. You get to have fun. You get to play your video games. Okay, what's the cost of not going with your friends? In 1 week of not going to friend parties, what will happen next week? Will you be more likely to get to the friend party or less likely?
Yes.
Will you be more likely to keep friends that want to keep inviting you in a month if you never go to these parties? And then their assumption will always be, well, I'll go next week. Well, by not going today, what's the cost of that for your willingness and ability to go next time?
I love this.
So when you start talking about the consequences long term, and then long term, when you're 30, do you want to have friends that have parties and that you go to parties? Or do you not want to have friends?
Because it feels so trivial in the moment. Who cares if I miss this party? Or from an adult perspective, who cares if I don't grab onto that opportunity? But when you start to factor in that long-term cost.
And then tie it to what their deeper values are. So really cool discussion about what you want to be in 30 years. I want to have friends. I want to have family. I want to be socially skilled. Then let's go effectively, go to the party, and let's do what we can to be able to, if we have to leave, we can leave. But let's go, especially if we have to overcome anxiety or something like that.
I have a feeling I'm going to love this next phrase. Prioritize easy action over endless thinking.
Yeah. The #1 way to create a habit is just to do the first easiest thing toward the habit.
To move.
Just get moving. But what we've learned to do as humans, especially anxious humans, is we just get our mind busy and we equate thinking to action.
Well, sometimes our mind, it feels like our mind has to be back to perfection in perfect order. We have to sort it out from all the angles and feel smooth about every path before we take the step.
And that's an illusion, right? Because what we're really thinking about is the end product. But all you have to be perfect at is the first easiest step. So if the first easiest step is to get your running shoes on, then easily get those running shoes on and you nailed it, near perfect. Then do the next step, which is get your sunglasses. Then do the next step, which is get outside. Then do the next step and start your watch. And then do the next step and walk 3 miles. So you don't have to be perfect. You just have to do the first easiest thing and act on it. And then weirdly, momentum carries you on.
You want us and you want us to teach as parents that we should update our success story.
We have a lot of stories that are just a bunch of bunk. Not to be too direct, but they're not real. And so, but what we do is we don't ever update the story. Like if we go to the party with our friends and nobody died and I really had a good time and I was able to shine and do what I was good at the party, then I need to intentionally come back and make that part of my story. I'm not just an anxious person afraid to go to the party. I'm somebody that overcame my fear, went to the party and crushed it and had fun and met a new friend and did all this stuff. And then I add that to my story. So the next time I'm sitting there thinking, should I go? I could go back to my healthier story that I'm crushing it. I'm a stud. That's how I do it. That's how I do it
every day.
Yeah, exactly.
I love this so much. I find myself thinking of 2 things. One, the phrase "worth the wrestle." I think that's the title of a Sherry Du book, actually. But worth it. Like if you look at that long-term payoff or benefit or the values that you're building and gaining. I also think really quickly of this. It's an Arizona family. I don't know. I went down the Instagram rabbit hole once. They received a devastating diagnosis. Strong family of faith. And I watched them from a distance, some stranger peeking into their lives, but pour themselves into the exercise of faith. Like they knew the outcome. They knew Dad wasn't going to be around for very much longer, but they still, you know, pleaded with God and fasted and poured themselves into the process, even though they had faith in the outcome and they were fine with the outcome, actually.
And they're different because they spent the process doing something and being present and being there instead of avoiding it, running it, fearing it. So when they finally get to the time they have to lose Dad, they're different people.
That was the work.
That's it.
That was the point.
And then what's weird is then that becomes the next challenge. And weirdly, they've now arrived at it, right? When the students are ready or the pupil's ready, the teacher appears. So anytime you're having the challenge, it's an obvious sign that you're ready for this lesson. The obstacle is the way, is what Ryan Holiday's book is called. Anytime there's the obstacle, that is the thing you now need to learn. So take it as an invitation to learn that. And then when you get through that, you'll create a lot of order, and then the next obstacle will appear, and then we'll do that one. And we'll just line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little.
Great job, Matt.
Until you die.
Great. And then there's that.
And then there's
the
that.
end. No, great topic and a great, I think, lens for parents to look at as we raise these awesome kids like you and Marty are. Hey, before we say goodbye, you've got a couples class coming up.
Yes, this is communication like 400 class.
Okay.
And so it's in October, and you sign up with your partner. It's an all-day Saturday class.
Yeah.
And while you're there, you're going to learn how to talk through the difficult stuff, literally get real, and learn to talk through big issues. So all you got to do is go to matttownsend.com, look under our live events section, and look for the Real Communication. We'll help you learn how to communicate.
Save your seats. You'll be better for it. Thank you again.
Thanks,
Great
Brooke.
job.